All right, good morning. How's everybody doing?
Morning. Great.
Having a great conference. So this is exciting. I appreciate, I know there's so many great sessions going on, so it's kind of hard to kind of just stay in one session. So hopefully you get a lot out of our session. If you need to leave, that's fine. My name is Steven Sendero. I'm with the University of South Florida. I have Dr. Redwan Al-Qasemi. He's one of our professors that work on some of the projects that you're going to see today. And Dr. Stephanie Carey couldn't be here, but we're going to share some of the work that she does. So basically, I'm going to do a little brief introduction. Essentially, our mission really is to increase the independence of people with disabilities in a variety of environments, and really using all the tools that technology has to offer. So sometimes, it can be kind of the low-tech, basic stuff. Sometimes things we've done with PVC, and a person is able to do certain things. We use pulley systems, mechanical. But then we also recognize that tools like virtual reality, augmented reality, robotics, have the potential to really enhance the lives of people with disabilities. And so we've been fortunate that we've received funding from Vocational Rehab, we've received funding from the National Science Foundation, Department of Defense, NASA, to support some of these activities. So I'm going to give you a little glimpse of some of the research projects, but one of the things that Dr. Carey and I do is we teach an undergraduate course called Capstone Design. So it's really geared towards final semester mechanical engineering students. They're required, as part of their curriculum, they're required to work on a real world problem and come up with a solution. So we have about 20 projects a semester. At least half of them are projects that are either from the community or from our rehab engineers in the field, where there's a need for a device or something that would increase somebody's accessibility. And so we give these projects to the students, and the students work as a team and come up with solutions. And I'll share some of those with you. Dr. Al-Qasemi is going to talk about some of our research projects. And then kind of throughout the process, really look at some of the challenges. And so when you look at technology in everybody's life, it's a game changer. But the adoption of technology for people with disabilities has not been at that same pace. And some of it might be for social reasons. Some of it might be that there's not a connection between people who know how to use these technologies to people who need those solutions. And some of it, of course, is financial. So this is a brief video that I will play that
Center for Assistive Rehabilitation and Robotics Technologies at the University of South Florida is a leader in global collaborative research, education, and service for improving the quality of life of individuals with impairments and functional limitations due to aging, disability, or traumatic injury.
So at CART, we work on integrated and innovative research, education, training, and service in assistive and rehabilitation robotics technologies. Our focus is on independence, employment, as well as integration into society of individuals with disabilities.
The researchers and students at CART achieve this through interdisciplinary research partners with the College of Engineering, the School of Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation Sciences, and the Department of Psychology, and the Colleges of the Arts, Behavioral and Community Sciences, and Marine Science. CART comprises 3 separate laboratories, each containing specific equipment, and faculty and students with specialized research capabilities to develop the various technologies.
In this particular lab, we like to analyze and quantify human movement. And we do that for a number of reasons, to help with rehabilitation programs, to look at injury prevention, but it also helps us to design our assistive technologies that help with human movement.
More than a typical gait lab, researchers analyze activities of daily living, also movements on ramps and stairs, as well as sports and recreation-related motion.
This lab that we're looking at right now includes what we call VR for VR. So it stands for Virtual Reality for Vocational Rehabilitation. It's a project that is tailored towards people with cognitive disabilities, such as autism or people with TBI and so forth. So the ultimate goal is if we can train them on a job environment that they can gain some skills out of, they can get these jobs and retain them. Most of the projects that we do here are using robotics technologies to assist people with physical disabilities. Baxter basically has two arms and it can do activities of daily living. For example, it can pick and place, it can fit objects. Also, we have made glasses with two cameras and the user wears them. And the cameras are stereo vision cameras, they look for you. So if there's an obstacle, they'll tell you there's an obstacle this many degrees to your left, within this many feet.
Research in the Reed Lab focuses on haptics and rehabilitation. Haptics focuses on the sense of touch and the aspects of thermal response, coordinated motions, and force feedback interaction.
We look at a lot of ways to restore motions to people who have lost it through some sort of impairment. So one of the projects we look at is called the Ice Ride device. It is designed such that it allows you to correct the asymmetric gait pattern when you have a stroke. It causes your healthy foot to go back further, which encourages your impaired side to take a longer step. This has an after effect when you take the shoe off, that you have a more symmetric gait pattern.
With engineers located around Florida, CART works with people with disabilities to remove barriers at home, workplace, transportation, and in the community in cooperation with a network of qualified vendors. Occasionally, CART recruits human subjects to test some of the work we are doing and provide their feedback. Researchers working on similar or related projects are welcome to contact CART and explore ways to collaborate with them.
You're looking directly at people's lives affected right away with your research. You're making a difference in people's lives.
Donations to CART help support their research by providing funding for a variety of activities. To learn more about CART, please visit our website at cart.usf.edu.
So I know at the end it talks about donation, but it's not always money, but it's really time. So if any of you really have a family member or somebody in the community that you know that could assist us, let us know. We're actually located, we have engineers that are located around the state that on a daily basis they're meeting with people with disabilities to identify barriers and then provide recommendations for vehicle modifications, home modifications, worksite modifications. So, this is a Florida statewide conference, so even though we're based in Tampa, we want to definitely communicate that we are statewide. So, as was discussed in that video, there's a lot of areas that our research focuses on. Mobility is a big part of it. But we're also looking at, recreation. One of the student projects that was done a couple of years ago, we worked with Shake a Leg in Miami. Some of you are familiar with Shake a Leg in Miami. So the students wanted to build a water chair. And so they came up with just using PVC and attaching two Sea-Doos. So Sea-Doos are those things that, scuba divers hold on to. And we took it down to Shake a Leg, and the kids had a lot of fun with it. And it was a very quick solution to something that didn't exist, but provided a lot of activities that helped some of the youth and individuals with disabilities embrace playing in the water. So I know the map is not very clear, but if you go to our website, and there's some brochures over here, you can kind of see who the local point of contact is, or you're welcome to contact any of us here today. Actually, I forgot to mention that Ms. Belmacitos is our rehab engineering technician that's based in Orlando, so she works with our rehab engineer closely. So, when we get a referral, we kind of try to break it down into, is it something that requires an intervention that's commercially available, then that's great. Then we're able to contact a vendor and then provide that recommendation. If it's something that is off the shelf but needs to be customized, we have fabrication facility students to work on. And then if there's something that's not available at all, but it's a real need, we can kind of design something from scratch and present it. So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Al-Qasemi to talk a little bit more detail about these projects.
Good morning, everybody. And thank you guys for coming here. You know, it's Memorial Day weekend. You just took the time to come here. That's really good. Great. I'm going to talk about several projects here that we have done in our labs. These are some short projects, some a little longer, but these are projects tailored specifically towards people with disabilities, some cognitive disabilities and some physical disabilities. So I'm going to talk about VR for VR, or virtual reality for vocational rehabilitation, wheelchair-mounted robotic arm, brain-machine interface where it's tailored toward people with ALS, where they cannot move any muscles, so they can control robots with their mind. And then we're going to talk about how we use artificial intelligence to do grasping. A lot of times you use robots to grasp objects, but grasping does not become successful. So how we use AI to make the grasping successful. And then we're going to talk about activities of daily living that we have robots actually programmed to do. They can make you a cereal, meal in the morning, or they can just get you your medicine. And then I'm going to talk about hands-free wheelchair, where wheelchairs can be controlled without having your arms tied to the controller. And then smart vision glasses for people with visual impairments. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about hands-free measuring application for our engineers that are throughout the state of Florida. And then talk a little bit about driving simulation. So the first project here is actually quite, got quite some attention, and a lot of people have used it for quite a bit. It's virtual reality for vocational rehabilitation, where we have a platform here that has motion capture system, and we have a tracked area where we track the person and we track the object that they interact with. And then, if you can see here, there's in the background, there's a curved screen, and there's goggles here that they put on their head. So some of the applications that we have are projected onto the screen, and it looks like very immersive environment where it looks real, and some of it actually from the head-mounted display. I'll show you some of these things later on. So we have created 6 modules, and now there are 7 actually recently. Each one caters towards a specific skill that can be used for a job environment. So again, we went back and forth so many times with counselors and job coaches until we found out that these are what people are looking for. And let me just run each one of these videos one at a time.
An environmental awareness skill. The user navigates to the destination by walking in place while avoiding collisions with objects, people, and cars.
So this is environmental awareness, where they have to be aware of the environment. If there are puddles or there are people walking around or cars and so forth. So that's still there. And then the money management skill, where how to deal with money, cash register, how much you return change.
Money management consists of interacting with a cash register screen implemented on a tablet computer. The user performs activities such as counting and giving change.
So a lot of times they tell it's not about, because the cash register will tell you how much you have to give back, then how many $5 bills, how many dollar bills, how many coins, and so forth. So we have different levels on that as well.
In the cleaning skill, the user wears a head-mounted display, holds a physical broomstick, and their motions are recognized by optical tracking of infrared markers.
So what's different here is that we have tangible objects, like a broomstick here. They're actually holding a broomstick. In the physical world, it's only a stick, but in the virtual environment, they see it as a broomstick or a vacuum cleaner and something like this. And we have this also in several other modules that you're gonna see here. The next one is the social skills. So again, how to interact with people, how to be polite, how to, react to, maybe some uncomfortable questions and so forth.
Social skills involves answering questions of virtual characters with different attitudes.
Currently describing your nearest emergency exit you are seeing right now.
So this is the problem that a lot of people have, like if we have an interview, we get nervous and then we don't know what to say, and sometimes at the work site, there's also a problem where, okay, I'm there, customer comes in angry, how do you react to this? So all these different aspects of reactions, we have it in that environment. The other one is shelving. This is actually one of the most difficult ones that we did. And what you see here, this is a table in the physical world, and in the virtual environment, it was actually a conveyor belt. So the whole task here is for you to, once a new shipment comes in, let's say you are working in Amazon warehouse, a new shipment comes in through the conveyor belt, you have to shelve it. A new order comes in, you have to get something from the shelf and put it into the conveyor belt. So all these things are actually physical boxes that you hold, but they are not labeled. But in the virtual world, you see them as a cereal box or Tupperware or whatever it is.
In shelving, the user fulfills the incoming orders and the
So what you
outgoing
see here
deliveries.
is what she is looking at in the
Tangible
virtual environment.
shelves and tangible boxes equipped with tracking markers are used to increase the immersiveness by incorporating tangible interaction. In the virtual world, different labels and textures can be projected onto tangible boxes to create variety.
Okay, and the last module I'm going to show you here is the truck loading, just loading boxes. You have to observe the labels, if it's glass or something fragile, or which side is up and so forth. So you have to observe and you have to be able to be efficient in loading the
Loading
box.
back of a truck is 2D to reduce the spatial comprehension needed. The user tries to fit the virtual boxes into the back of a truck according to their labels.
Okay, so all of these here are catered towards that target population which have like cognitive disabilities. We have other modules that are for physical disabilities that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But the whole idea for this is to make an assessment of what things that are triggering some kind of problems, and then if they are able to overcome that problem by training or things like that. So this is the job coach user interface. So this is on a tablet screen. The coach can activate distractors, can write notes, can go through different levels of difficulty in this training. So they have full control of. I think I have a video here.
VR for VR provides a remote control interface on a tablet computer for job coaches. This interface allows them to control the simulation, apply real-time distractors, take notes, access training information, and reports.
So this is the interface that controls the whole system, and usually the job coach controls that system. Of course, distractors are very important and tutorials. So we also created a tutorial module and distractors. So if somebody's working in a specific job and they have distractors, whether it's sound distraction or thunder or whatever it is, how do they react to this? And then what kind of mitigation can you do to overcome that problem?
For each subtask of each skill, a tutorial is given in which a virtual instructor teaches the user how to perform the task, first by explaining it verbally with the help of visual aids, and then by demonstrating how to perform the task.
And then some of the distractors that are going to
Many
see here.
individuals with cognitive disabilities have fears or irritations that affect their job performance negatively. Our system allows job trainers to insert various distractors real time.
Fireworks, something breaking, this happens all the time.
Job trainers can then help trainees learn how to handle these fears or irritations.
This is my favorite. How many people saw people in a grocery store, kids are playing and just, sliding down. All these things can be, it can be normal, but a lot of times, it's not normal for people with disabilities. So how do we deal with that? Now this is the physical disability module. What we have created here, we have created a robot that we have it physically in our lab. It's a robot on a mobile platform, and the robot has two hands, and it has a nice face where it can give like facial recognition ideas here. And we can train a person with physical disability to control this in the virtual world, do different tasks. And then if they have a job somewhere, they can be working from home, and they can be trained on this virtually, and then once they are trained enough, then they can go ahead and start controlling the physical robot to do their job. So let me run this very quickly here.
The physical disabilities modules aim to train the users with severe mobility impairments on how to control a physical robot via virtual reality.
We call this guy here Baxbot, Baxter Robot.
In the dual arm control module, the users practice grabbing large objects using the robot's dual arm control method. Then the users practice fulfilling order deliveries in a virtual warehouse environment. For training with the robot in
So
the
this is the
virtual
physical robot that you
environment,
see
the
there
user
now.
proceeds to perform similar tasks using the physical robot.
And he's controlling this robot with two handheld devices that can drive the robot and can control the hands and the grippers and everything. Okay, so that's the VR for VR project. Let me move on to wheelchair-mounted robotic arm. I'm going to talk quickly about this. So we designed a robotic arm from the ground up, which is attached to the wheelchair, and then we combine the wheelchair motion and the arm motion together. So you control only the end, the gripper. Whatever we do things in our hand, we never think about which joint to move or how to move our body. We just go there and grab things, right? So this is what we did with this project here, where you don't think about anything. Just your wheelchair is part of the arm, and you just reach out somewhere, the arm and the chair, everything will move, based on the motion of the gripper. So this project here is supported by the National Science Foundation. And we have also designed a specific gripper that's capable of grasping so many different objects, flat objects, round objects, cylindrical objects, and so forth. And we have this patented as well. And actually we have like 5 of these produced in our lab. The next project is vision-based system for performing tasks using brain-machine interface. So again, this is catered towards people with severe physical disabilities, but their brain is functional 100%. So they can control robots with their brain signal. So let me see if I have video. I'm just going to bypass some of these things for the sake of time and just show you the video here. So what you see here, we have electrode caps that the person wears. We select EEG signal from the brain, and we have a stimulus here that they look at the screen. So what the view of the screen here is from the camera on the robot. The camera is looking at the environment and showing him here, and then these flashes that you see are stimulus that stimulates the brain, and then we can tell what the person is wanting to do. So in this case, he wants to grasp this bottle and bring it towards him. And once we identify the object and the task that he wants to do, then we can go ahead, the robot will do this autonomously. And again, we have tested this on healthy subjects. We never tested it on actually people with ALS, but the concept is there, and it was successfully actually doing a lot of activities of daily living without touching anything, purely from the brain signal. Okay, next project here is, so this is what I talked to you about grasping. So a lot of times we have a problem, when you go have the robot, wanting to grasp an object, grasping a lot of times fails, because maybe the grasping location is not in the right location, or right angle or right approach. So we have used artificial intelligence here to figure out where's the best place to grasp any object that is not known. I'm just going to run this video very quickly here. So the user selects things. So this is what the camera sees. We analyze what it sees, and then we try to recognize the object and find out the best place to grasp the object, so that the grasp will happen with a high success rate. Okay, so this is this is another interface that we have done for the robot arm, where a person can, we talked about the brain-computer interface, right? What if a person can use their hands, right? So this is an interface where they can use their cell phone to control the arm. You just move your cell phone anywhere, and as if you're using the gripper, and that controls the whole motion of the robot. So I think we have a video here. Or maybe not. Oh, there.
Grasping the bottle of water.
So what he's doing, of course, this is accelerated, but what he's doing with his phone, he's using the touch screen, the accelerometer on the phone. Just by moving the phone and the thumb on the screen, the touch screen, he's controlling the arm to do all of these activities that he's doing. So in this case, he's trying to make some kind of getting some of the dishware from the dishwasher.
Grasping the bowl. Placing the bowl on the plate. Opening the cabinet door.
So all of these very complex tasks, when you do this in an autonomous way, it's very complex. But here he's doing all of this and using his phone.
Grasping the salt can, shaking salt onto the plate. And finally closing the cabinet door.
Now, this robot here that I talked to you about is a robot with 2 hands. It has a screen that you can put facial expressions. And we found out this actually very, very useful for children as well. We made Connect 4 game where the robot can recognize all these chips and can play that game with the children or anybody else. And we have 4 different levels where, a lot of times it's hard to beat that robot. But, kids are smart and they a lot of times they beat it. So let me show you here a few tasks. So this robot, we programmed it to do a lot of activities of daily living. So I'm going to show you here, a few activities that are very useful. And students always have fun doing these projects. So this here is for medicine, right? So this person wants to get his medicine. So what we did here, we did a facial expression and recognition of voice. So the robot would take the camera, there's a camera right here, looking at the face, and it asks him, what's your name? He says, my name is Jason. And it looks at the face, does that match Jason or not? If it does, then it will go and look at all these medicine options to find the medicine for Jason. So it looks at, it scans each one of the medicines until it finds the one for Jason, and brings it back to Jason so that he can get his medicine. And of course, don't forget the water. Mixing the water as well. And this guy is a little lazy, so he programmed something to stack the dishes for him. Okay, so we have a dishwasher here. He said, okay, go ahead and stack the dishes. Just recognize which one is bigger, which one is smaller, and stack them on top of each other based on their size. Done. How many people want to see the dishes?
I want one.
There you go.
How many dishes did you break before?
Now here, if you wake up in the morning and you don't feel like, wanting to make breakfast, this guy can make you breakfast right there. Put the cereal on, get you the spoon, they put water, and there's a reason why there's a towel here. You guys can guess why, right? Okay, there you go. So these are some activities, and there's more here in this other video.
Baxter, get me the red object. After receiving a command to retrieve an object, the Baxter system will navigate to the table where objects are located.
So here you do all the commands through your phone, right? And then everything is done autonomously. So he wants to get a specific object.
The system will then identify objects in the scene and perform color recognition to determine which object was requested for by the user.
And this works actually
Moving the arms to position the gripper
for
around
everybody.
the object.
When we're watching
Baxter
football,
grabs
we're
the
lazy, we don't want to go
object
get,
and turns the
grab
arm.
or drinks, you just send this guy to go grab it for you. Another task they programmed is retrieving a book. a specific book. So you can just tell
Use
the
the
author and the name of the
Tom
book,
Baxter.
and it
This
goes
is
there
a
and
form-based
scans all the
definition
book,
to locate and
the spines of the
navigate
books,
to the
and
user.
then finds out the one that matches what you want.
As you can see, the red object was grasped and successfully returned to the user.
Okay, so moving on to another project, and then this project here is kind of unique in a way where a specific person, a veteran with disability, was in a school of arts, theater and art and dance, and that person, on a wheelchair was not able to dance and do all the dance moves with the other group members because their hands are always on the controllers. So they came to us and they approached me and said, how can we make this hands-free? So the first prototype we did here, hands-free, where the chair itself became a joystick. So just lean your body, and then it moves, wherever you lean. And then after we did this, this I think has a little short video here, so you can see how it looks like. See how easily she glides in and goes around right and left without having to worry about how the wheelchair moves. And then afterwards we thought, why don't we use cell phones these days, So cell phones have accelerometers. They can put that cell phone on their hand, their head, whatever, on their chest, and then as they move their hand or head or chest, it can move the wheelchair. So that's the next generation prototype that we did here.
People with spinal cord injuries, amputee, holds their powered wheelchair, minimum modifications to the wheelchair. Subject testing was conducted.
So as you can see here, you can hold the thing in your hand, and as you can move we can move the wheelchair with the robotic arm. Of course, we did some testing and subject testing. Here it's on the head, so you can move the head, and your head will move the wheelchair, or in your arm. You can just put a harness here and put it in your arm. And then later on, we found out that's also useful for amputees. If you have some kind of residual limb after amputation, you can use this also to drive your wheelchair quite easily. So this is another project. A lot of times people have difficulty navigating through buildings. So some people come to our engineering building, for example, at USF. They go in and they go from the wrong entrance where there's no accessibility. They cannot drive their wheelchair through and so forth. And they get very frustrated, like why are there no signs and so forth. So what we did here, we created an application with sensors, and it connects with the GPS and the Wi-Fi. As soon as you park your car, you can activate this on your phone, and then it will see where you are exactly. And then it will give you a menu of what are the different offices in that building. Once you select that, it will find out the best route for you that's accessible, and it will guide you through the route as you go through. So you see here a little video of how that looks like. It downloads the map for you right away. It guides you, and then next to each door we have a QR code that can be read here. So it can read that QR code and knows where you are in that building and where's your next step for the office that you're looking for. Again, we use AI for this as well, because the camera looks at different objects on the hallway and try to recognize what these objects are and where are they located in that building. Smart glasses. So how many people know a person who has visual impairment? Anybody? Okay.
That's the purpose
So
of us working on the
this here is a
software
really
and
good
hardware
project that we have done. Let me pause for a minute.
Help the visually impaired.
So it's a project that we have done for people with visual impairments where, of course, it's not a replacement for the cane. You still have the cane. But this one here tells you the context of your environment. You're walking, people are walking around you, you have no idea what they are. We have 2 cameras on glasses that you can wear. And these cameras capture everything around you and then convey the message of what's in front of you verbally, right? So a friend approaches, it recognizes that friend and tell them, hey, Jason is approaching it, for example. If there are signs, street signs, stop signs, it recognizes the signs and tells you what the signs are. And if there are cars, it recognizes the cars if you're crossing the street or so forth. And even inside your home, it recognizes the furniture and tells you what you're looking at. So let me run this video here to see how it looks like.
Here we see a blind person crossing the street. That's the purpose of us working on the software and hardware object detection project to help the visually impaired use assistive technology.
So as you can see here,
Detect
it recognizes
multiple
people,
objects such as
cars.
cars, stop signs, and other kinds of objects, as you'll see. Here you see a blind person wearing the glasses walking towards a stop sign. As you can see, the stop sign is detected more and more as you get closer. Ideally, a blind person could walk up to the stop sign, realize he's approaching it, and gets really close to the intersection, stops, looks around for cars to see if they can detect any cars or vehicles coming, as you see here in the video, and be able to recognize when the road is cleared to cross.
So that's outdoors, right? And then once you get home, you can switch to a home mode so that it can start recognizing what's your home furniture and you know where you're going with that.
Here we see a blind person arriving home. Glasses. Detect. Household.
And again, you talk to your glasses just like talking to a person, you know? You tell them what you want and they'll try to understand you and, you know, try to...
Glasses can now detect items inside of the house. Such as chairs and sofas.
And this is an accuracy of 99.9% if you guys notice here. So it's not going to confuse a chair for, you know, a cabinet.
Take the blind person to a desired location far away where he will actually need GPS help.
Now here we also added Google Maps with this.
To achieve this,
So if you want to navigate to any place, you can tell it where you want to go and then it finds you the best route for walking.
directions. Address.
So unfortunately, after it found where's the closest Bonefish restaurant for him to go to, found out, it found out also that it will be closed by the time he arrives. But you got the idea. So, you know, this is very helpful, but, you know, we found a problem with this. There's no problem here, but when you're crossing a street and there's a car coming, by the time the computer vision and the cameras see that car, analyze the information, and then figure out that there's a car crossing, don't go. It takes, you know, several seconds. And these several seconds are very crucial, right? If there's a puddle in front of you, or stairs, or some obstacles, that takes a little bit of time. So what we're working on right now, this is actually an ongoing project. We thought of, okay, why don't we, instead of having the computer look at these, analyze these, and take so much time, there are a lot of people that are willing to help. Maybe a friend, maybe a relative that's sitting at home. And they're willing to help, but they cannot come to you. They don't have the means to come to you. So what we did here, what we're working on right now, is we have developed a hat that has a 360-degree vision in a camera. So you can, whoever is looking at these cameras, you can see 360 degrees around the person, okay? And the person with visual impairment can wear this hat. We connected this to an application that we developed. And in that application, you have relatives or whoever you want to add to your list that can help you, okay? So what happens is, if you need help, just click one button. It will initiates a call to all of your friends that are willing to help. The first one that picks up assumes control of the cameras, right? So that person will be looking at their phone and seeing what's around you. And let's say I want to make coffee. They'll tell you, oh, here, you know, just go forward a little bit, go to the right here in front of you. Or if you want to navigate, you want to walk around, just walking, it will tell you what they're seeing. You know, they see a car, stop sign, whatever it is, they will tell you right away. It doesn't take time. So we are working on this one right now, and I think it will be way safer in terms of immediate action that they can tell you what's happening and what's going on. This is the Hamstring measuring tool that we talked about, I told you about earlier, where a lot of times our engineers and technicians go to a person's home for making measurements for maybe home modification or job site modification. And when the pandemic happened, they cannot go there because, COVID-19, and then, it got very awkward. And at the same time, when they're measuring things, they're touching a lot of things, which is, makes it a little more dangerous. And sometimes also after they go home, they find out, oh, we didn't measure this or that, oh, we have to go back, right? So what we did here, we made an app that has a LiDAR, where you just can't go to any room, scan it, and once it scans everything, just go home. From home, you can put any measurement there, and then it will find you your measurement within, I think, 1/4 of an inch in accuracy. So this way, I don't know if this. So the engineers can go and make a profile for each person, each client, and they can go there and then scan and take measurements and however they want, and everything happens wirelessly without having to touch anything. So we developed this. Actually, this is the previous version. We have a newer version now that will do the scanning and everything in a matter of minutes. Okay, so I'm going to leave it back to Steven now. He's going to talk to you a little bit more about some capstone projects, but afterwards you guys can ask any questions you want once we're done.
Thank you, Dr. Al-Qasimi. So it's interesting, when you look at some of these projects, like we're designing something for somebody with a visual impairment, there's no reason that that same technology can't be translated to somebody with physical disability. So if somebody, if you have a child or a sibling who you want them to be independent and be out in the community, you could use that same vision enhancement system for somebody like that as well, because they can be out in the field and somebody can help them navigate. So we've been, we actually do with vocational rehab, we do a lot of vehicle modifications for people with disabilities, and some of those modifications are fairly high tech. So you're using a joystick similar to what's on a wheelchair to control a vehicle. So you're using a joystick to go left, right, forward, back. So we had designed a simulator. So right now, the method was to take that person, put them in a vehicle, and then put them on the road. But we used a simulator to kind of get some more information to look at some of the dynamics. And then more recently, we have been getting a lot of referrals for teenagers with autism who want to drive. And in those situations, there's really not any adaptive equipment that's involved. And so a nice resource that we have, it's called a Cairn System. And so it's a 6-degree platform. It can simulate some of those same dynamics as if you're in a real vehicle. And also then, you can be on an urban road, you can be on a rural road, you can increase the amount of traffic there is, you can create instances where you can help that individual practice and get used to driving before actually putting them in the real world. So I think, we hear a lot about recreation. One of the things that we look at as a theme in our center is really quality of life. So with quality of life, you really have a full quality of life when you're participating in recreational activities. So there's a number of things that Dr. Al-Qasimi mentioned, the hands-free wheelchair. We've also worked with individuals with prosthetics who want to be able to kayak and do certain things. So just to kind of connect how the educational activities, research activities translate into increasing somebody's quality of life. At the early stages of our center, we had a family who had a 9-year-old boy who didn't have a full use of his arms and legs. And like any 9-year-old boy, he wanted to go riding a bicycle with his family. So unfortunately, there wasn't anything commercially available. So they came to us, and I always say this, reluctantly we said, okay, we'll give it to our capstone students. So these are the senior engineering students. And I say reluctantly because it's a challenge, right? You don't want to raise somebody's hope without knowing whether we can actually accomplish it. So this is the tricycle that they designed, and they actually designed this in a single semester. And the way the tricycle worked was he would rock his body forward and back, and that would propel the tricycle. He would twist for steering, and a little bit of an upper extremity, they were actually able to install a braking system. And you can see him smiling. I always tell people I have to update this slide because the students were also just beaming. And it was very successful. And then kind of fast forward 10 years later, when he became a teenager and wanted to drive, through vocational rehab, we were able to modify his vehicle where he was able to drive that vehicle independently. So the remark his mom made was, because he got exposed to mobility at a very young age, he embraced it and really he's done remarkable things. He got a bachelor's degree, and then he's got an MBA, he's got his own company. And I think, I'm gonna quickly, just for time, I wanna open it up for some questions. Any of you have any projects like that? I can't promise you that we'll deliver always a successful product, but at least, we can kind of take a shot at it and work on something. And it's really, what we see is the students really love working on challenges. And so if you have something or know about it, I'll put my email up again. So did you have a project? And the way we look at it is also, these are mechanical engineers. We're not training them to be rehab engineers, but if they graduate and they go work at Honda and they're designing vehicles or designing the seating system for vehicles, they're going to connect with the needs of people with disabilities. So we think we're actually producing better engineers because they're thinking about universal design. So it's really, after fall, it's going to be a 2-semester, so the students have more time to work on that project. So this is an example. This is a commercially available hand cycle that's actually made by Top End, which is a Florida-based company. And because of the dynamics of that tricycle or hand cycle, the seat is very low to the ground. So when somebody's transferring from their wheelchair to that seat, going down is easy, but then transferring back is really hard. So what the students designed was this mechanism, you can kind of see an animation of it, which brought the seat closer to the level of their wheelchair. And so this is a picture of the before and after. And it looks like it came from the factory, right? The students really took time to paint it and make it look good, and it almost looks like something that came as an accessory. We had an opportunity to work with Aquarium and the Victory ship. So the Victory ship is a World War II ship that's docked at the Tampa Aquarium, and they have like 3 decks, and they wanted to be able to take some veterans, who were still, in World War II, and get them up the decks. So an elevator was not an option. So this is kind of an animation. So they designed kind of like a platform lift that would go over the stairs to be able to accomplish that. And what we're starting to see now, some semesters, the students themselves say, oh, I have a brother with a disability, and these are the things that he really would like to do. And so this was an example of that. This was a student whose her brother had CP, and he used a manual wheelchair, and he wanted accessories. He wanted like a tray. And so they actually ended up designing a couple of things. They designed this tray that basically would rotate out of the way and then be stored. And then they used 3D printing. So all of you probably may be familiar with 3D printing, but that's a great tool to build something really quick. And so they designed a couple of accessories for his phone, to hold a cup, by 3D printing. And one of the things they did is also put it open source. So it's available to the general public, so anybody who has a need for having a cup holder on a wheelchair, they're able to do that. So one project that kind of came up over the years was for a young boy who was going from high school to college and having the need to take his backpack from behind the chair and bring it to the side. And throughout high school, he depended on somebody to do that. And so we actually did that as a capstone project, and came up initially with the concept of having something. So this is kind of a raw prototype. It's very noisy, but it worked. So then, we took that and were actually able to commercialize it into a product that became available. And the challenges are, it's not like just having a big swing arm that goes through, but these are just some examples of projects that started off as student projects. And sometimes, like the tricycle, is for a very specific individual, but sometimes there's also examples of these projects that have a larger value.
Well, this is much more quiet. He did not mute the voice here. It's not noisy. Sounds like he muted it, but there's no voice.
And then lastly, we also work with, sometimes customers come to us with the challenge where, okay, I can't afford a vehicle, I can't afford a car payment, this is what I have. I have a sedan, and so this was actually a college student. Who, she was by herself and she needed to go to school and she needed a way to transport her wheelchair. So in this situation, we worked with the students and came up with some kits where you can actually swing the door towards the back of the vehicle. And there is a commercially available lift, it's called a Speedy Lift. And she lost her back seats, but she was willing, it didn't affect her because she was by herself. And so this is an example of something that sometimes, you gotta kind of think about stuff, what are the options out there, and then make it work for that individual. So I'm gonna kind of leave it at that because I just wanted to see if we had any questions, anything that we can answer. Yes?
Okay, what if someone is not totally visually impaired, like they have straight ahead vision, but their peripheral vision has been impaired? Do you have anything for that?
Oh, I have that problem too, because I can't drive this number of vision.
We have come across that, and we haven't really augmented the vision, but sometimes what we've done is add mirrors in the vehicle, add some cameras. Wilma, I don't know if you have any plans you can think of off the top of your head, what we've done in those situations.
We have put some side view cameras. I don't know with regards to driving, because you should always keep your eye, straight on the road and not on the cameras. But there are things that a driving evaluator could do where they could take you out and kind of try and figure out what's the better way, maybe turning your head while you're driving, just to see if that would help you a little bit better.
And so after 2018, any vehicle produced after 2018 has to have a backup camera. But before that, sometimes we would recommend clients either buy a vehicle with a backup camera or we would install an aftermarket backup camera. Yes?
Okay, so I wonder about the brain computer. Like, how does it communicate with the brain? How is it able to, how's the robot, able to, do all this stuff?
So, let me answer the question, so your brain, whenever you think about anything, even moving your hand, there are neurons that are fired all over your brain, right? So what happens is that these produce also electromagnetic field, and there's a signal called EEG, you can Google it. That EEG signal flies out of your brain. You cannot see it, but it's there, right? So these electrodes that you saw we put on the scalp of your brain, it picks up these signals, And from these signals, the stimulation makes a signal look in a specific shape. And once we get the shape of the signal, we know what kind of thing that they're thinking about that they want to do. So we take this, we analyze it, we filter it, and then we translate it into a robotic action, right? So yeah, whatever you're thinking, there are a lot of things flying out of your brain that you don't see.
So like, if I want to have the pink bottle, then the robot arm can just go grab the pink bottle.
It does.
So like what I'm thinking, the robot can do.
Not everything. Only specific things that we have programmed it to do. Because that stimulus that you saw on the screen, okay, it stimulates. You have to identify an object, okay, and that it can be any object. It doesn't matter. But once we identify the object, we have a list of things that you can do with this object. Like if it's a bottle, you can bring it to drink. You can throw it away. You can refill it. If it's a door, you can open it. You cannot drink from a door, right? So each object has its own tasks that you can do, right? So it's not open to everything, but it's something better than nothing, right? So
That's good.
Yep. Yeah.
Anyways, good.
Great. I think you had a question.
Yeah. So when we go, I'm sorry I missed the first few minutes, but when we have a product idea and we have a need, we email you or we talk to you about that need?
You can email us. I'm just going to put the email up so you have it.
Because I mean, like, if you look at, like, with my car, it'll recognize cars in front of me, right? And it starts to brake, and I can, put it on, the assist, so that I can, level it 1, 2, 3 cars, and then it'll start to brake for me if I'm not braking already. And I mean, when you were talking about the visually impaired and that delay, obviously that delay is pretty critical.
Right.
I'm just thinking with his cognitive delay, I would just love to ride a bike along with him. But with his cognitive delay, if we're not on a round track and he's approaching a stop sign, with his delay sometimes he'll go through the stop and he won't listen to my verbal prompt quick enough to be safe, or if a car is coming. I mean, have you guys handled that situation at all?
So I had a customer almost 10 years ago. He was actually an NFL player, and he had a son with a disability, CP, and the whole family loved to ride bikes, but he didn't have sufficient vision and coordination to ride a bike. So we actually built a tandem bicycle, and so the young boy sat in front, he sat at the back. Now we didn't have the sophistication, 10 years ago, some of these camera systems, but I don't know if that would be something that it's not two separate bikes,
right,
but it might at least help you get to the point where he's able to get your cues, and then you can break it up into two separate bikes. So we can talk. I mean, we love those kind of needs because, like I mentioned, those are real needs, and we kind of, there's actually, right now, National Science Foundation wants to come up with all kinds of stuff, and they call it a convergence accelerator, but it's really bringing people together, finding out what those needs are. But we are focused on specific technologies.
Sure.
But the nice thing about with Capstone Design, so sometimes we've taken a project that's mechanical Capstone Design and then refined it as a research project.
And one more thing about the delayed reaction, like we have delayed reaction comes from two different things. One from the machines and one from the human brain. So the one from the human brain we cannot control, cannot do anything about it, right? But the one from the machine we can always improve. So when you're talking about delay, his delayed reaction is something that's built into him, that
Right.
cannot be changed. But then machines can do some early intervention, so that could be a project that can probably be worked on.
That would be awesome. He just desires such independence, and I understand, So the tandem bike is nice, but his desire for the independence and feeling the freedom is so important to him.
Right.
So I would love to talk to you guys. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Go ahead.
Extending on his question about the robotic arm that scans the brain, if you think, for example, get the red object, will it already know what to do to get the red object, or we have to instruct it, go forward,
Well,
go right?
it doesn't know what you want, right? Since a person cannot talk, this is for people who cannot talk, who cannot move their arms or anything, right? So it needs to know what you want. So what the brain-machine interface does, it conveys what you want. It tells them that you want the red object and you want it to be picked up and brought to you. Okay? So once this communication happens between your brain and the machine, then the robot will do it by its own, right? So that's the whole, everything that it needs to know is what object you're intending to get and what do you want to do with it, right? This information comes from your brain, and then everything else happens automatically. Yeah, go ahead then.
So my question is about the same system. If you're not wanting them to grab objects, can you have like pictures so that a nonverbal person can look at a picture and then it says, I want this person, or I say they need to be changed, and there are pictures of clean and dirty, and then they see that, it can verbally say, I'm dirty, or I want my mom, or I want mom, because it sees a picture of mom, dad, or caregiver, nurse. Is it capable of that?
Yes, but it's not programmed to do that. Yeah.
But we can program it. So
Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah.
So like you can put a thing on their head, and they can look at something and say, this is my desire, and they're looking, and it's reading them, and so it can translate it
But
for
here's
them.
the thing, when we use the brain computer, we call it BCI. When we use the BCI, it takes a big toll on your brain, so we notice that after half an hour of use, your brain becomes so tired.
Okay.
And then the signal comes out of it is, very noisy and you cannot see much of it. If the person can look, because ALS people cannot even look, their eyesight is not, is not good. If they can see, it's way better to use, eye tracking, for example, to locate these things. Way easier, way better. It's less taxing on their thumb, right? So a person like this, I wouldn't use the BCI. I would use eye tracking.
Okay.
They can do the exact same thing, pick whatever they want using eye tracking.
I didn't know that's what it was called, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
Have you guys looked at something that we discussed with him in a training that we had before about exoskeletons?
So we have worked with the VA, and so when exoskeletal systems came out first, there's actually 3 manufacturers. There was a lot of interest because this was a game changer, but as time went on, the exoskeletal systems really, as a mobility device, is very challenging. So the VA has actually revamped and looking at, they actually hired 2 physical therapists specifically to look at that exoskeletal system. So now they're looking at, instead of a mobility device, can it be more a therapy device? And Redwan has worked with like DOD and stuff. I mean, the military has been using it, but the challenge with an especially a lower limb exoskeletal system is balance.
Right. That's exactly the next point, because he has no balance. So he has function of his legs and his arms but at a limit, and he fatigues a lot. So an exoskeleton was being considered or talked about or looked into to see if it could increase his longevity of doing so.
Yeah. So I know at least 2 people in the VA, I guess we met one day, they're looking at exoskeletons specifically and adding sensors to add balance to it. So while you're walking, losing balance makes things, go south, but the sensors will alert you before things go a little bit out of control. So they're working on this. I don't know how far they went, but it's in the VA right across from USF campus. There are 2 people at least that are working on that front.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Hi. I know many people want modifications, but there's an affordability component here. Is this a commercial? And this is the first part. Is that a value to getting these type of modifications?
So you mentioned
How do you handle, how
like
do they handle
home modifications?
home modifications, wheelchair modifications, all of it.
So home modifications, so primarily we work with Vocational Rehab as a funding agency. So we encourage customers to reach out to Vocational Rehab to become a VR customer. There are some other organizations like Centers for Independent Living that can assist. Home Depot actually will supply all the materials, but they can't actually do the modification. When it comes to vehicle modifications, it's a little bit more challenging because depending on what, the first step is really to get a driving evaluation. And so to get a driving evaluation, it's not really reimbursed by insurance. So that can sometimes be expensive right up front. But again, you know, if individuals, especially youth, you know, you heard the VR director talk about individuals as young as 16, can apply and become a VR client.
And once they're a VR client, you get a whole lot more resources to get.
And then some of those other technologies with Capstone, we don't expect any funding from the individuals with disabilities. That's something that fortunately we have funding that comes from the school and other sources.
And the students always love to work for free. You know, they want to get
So
their degree.
so the vocational rehab, if your child is under 16.
14. It's 14. Starts at 14 now.
Started 14, but I think he said under 16.
Well,
Oh, okay, so no, because it would be what you provide.
Well, I think what VR has done is really trying to get kids as early as they can. So I thought it was 16, but it sounds like from Vilma.
They're starting from 14
Yeah, they
now.
changed
It's
the
the
age
pre-ed.
groups.
Yeah,
they
it's the
changed the
pre-ed
age
program.
from 14. So if your kid wants to drive, he's on the autism spectrum or he has a wheelchair, we go through VR.
Yes.
In order to get your services.
Yes.
Okay, I
Yes.
see. Mhm.
Yes.
So you will get a driving evaluation.
And you know, we can't really provide a service like a formal evaluation till we get a referral. But if you just want to discuss what's going on, what the circumstances are, we can at least advise you and say, okay, you know, this is some of the steps you can take.
Thank you.
Would the referral come from a doctor?
For VR?
Yes.
No, actually you can go to the VR website. You can, I think now you can do it online. So I don't know if they got back into doing orientations, but you don't have to go through a doctor to become a VR client. Now VR might ask for some medical to confirm that the individual has a disability, but you don't have to go to a specific doctor for that. If you already have documentation, especially if the individual is on SSDI, that's adequate.
Go ahead.
I got a question about walkers. They gave her 2 different walkers, and kids can't navigate the walkers. They don't have a resistance. Would there be any way to make a walker that can say, hey, you're not hitting into the wall?
No,
So
Lily
you-
doesn't have depth perception, like she'll crash into
I don't know if this.
because of the disease that she has. She has something called ASAPS disease.